The mind of a king isn't born from comfort. It's forged in fire, through pain, betrayal, silence, and reflection. The mind of a king, how pain and betrayal forge true power, isn't just a title. It's a truth you've likely felt in your own life. When people you trusted turn away, when life delivers one blow after another, when you stand alone with nothing but your thoughts, that's when your real power begins to rise. This video is your blueprint for that transformation. Each lesson ahead isn't theory. It's tested insight, rooted in everyday battles we all face. The friend who betrayed you, the moment you stayed silent instead of exploding, the night you doubted your worth but got up anyway. So before we dive in, I ask one thing. Listen with your full attention and come back to this message as often as you need. Let it anchor your mornings, guide your thinking, and reset your strength. Share it with someone silently fighting battles they can't explain. And if it resonates, hit subscribe. Leave a comment, still standing. That's it, 2 words. Let's build a community of resilient minds, one powerful thought at a time. Now, let's begin. 1. Accept pain as part of strength. Pain isn't a mistake, it's a message. It's life trying to get your attention. While most people run from it, numb it, or try to suppress it, the mind of a king does the opposite. He leans in, because somewhere along the journey, he realizes this: pain is the path, not the punishment. When life hurts, it's revealing something. It's showing you where you haven't built strength yet. So instead of asking why it happened, ask what it's shaping in you. This shift is where transformation begins. You don't develop emotional self-control and peace. You earn it in the storm. And if you resist the pain, if you pretend it doesn't matter, you rob yourself of the very training ground that builds your mental toughness. Let's be honest, no one escapes this life untouched. Whether it's betrayal by someone you trusted, failure when you gave everything, or that silent battle you fight at 2 a.m. when no one's watching. Pain shows up, not to destroy you, but to develop you. It asks you, who are you without comfort? Who are you when your plans fall apart? Who are you when you're left in silence with only your thoughts? That's where the truth lives, because pain strips away the fake. It forces you to get real with yourself. It holds up a mirror to your identity and demands that you either collapse or rebuild. And in that choice, in that crucible, your inner power is either forged or forgotten. A man who avoids pain avoids mastery. He chooses the illusion of peace over the real thing. He drifts. But a man who welcomes pain with awareness and presence doesn't just survive, he becomes unbreakable. Think about the gym. Your muscles don't grow when they're resting. They grow when they're pushed to the edge. The same is true with your mind, your emotions, your will. That deep burn you feel when life hits hard, that's growth under construction. But only if you keep going. Pain also clarifies. When you've been through the fire, your priorities shift. What once triggered you no longer matters. You stop wasting time seeking approval. You stop explaining yourself. You stop performing. Why? Because you've seen too much. You've hurt too deep. And now you know what truly counts. Inner peace, self-respect, clear priorities, and discipline. Not just the flashy discipline that looks good on Instagram, but the quiet, relentless kind. The kind that shows up every morning when your heart's still broken, when no one's clapping, when the results aren't showing yet, but you keep going anyway. When you accept pain as part of the process, you unlock a new mindset. You stop chasing ease, you start becoming grounded. You stop begging for answers, you start building your own. And slowly something inside you changes. You become calmer, more focused, less reactive, more powerful. Not because life got easier, but because your mind got stronger. And that strength didn't come from theory. It came from the days you wanted to quit but didn't. The nights you cried and still showed up. The moments you were disrespected, doubted, overlooked, and used it all as fuel to become more. That's how a king thinks. That's how a king is made. Not in comfort, not in applause, but in the fire, where pain doesn't destroy you, it defines you. And the man who accepts that will never be controlled by pain again. He'll control it, and in doing so, he'll begin to control his life. 2. Betrayal is a test to discover inner strength. Betrayal doesn't just hurt, it shakes something primal inside you. When someone you trusted turns away, when their words say one thing but their actions say another, it creates a tear, not just in the relationship, but in your sense of reality. It hits hard, because betrayal doesn't come from enemies, it comes from those you let in. And that's what makes it powerful, because it exposes the raw truth of who's really in your corner when everything falls apart. But here's where the shift begins. What if betrayal wasn't just pain to carry, but a test to pass? What if it was life removing what you didn't need so you could grow into what you're meant to become? When you're betrayed, you stand at a crossroads. One path leads to bitterness, revenge, emotional chaos. The other leads to clarity, strength, and personal growth. Stoic thinking teaches us that what matters most is never the event, but your response. So yes, it's okay to feel the sting. You're human. But don't stay there. Don't spiral, because staying in betrayal robs you twice. First by their action, then by your inaction. The power isn't in what they did. The power is in what you do next. And this is where your inner strength begins to surface. Not in the easy moments, but in the decision to rise above the hurt and act with purpose. You may remember a time when someone you trusted let you down completely. Maybe they spoke behind your back. Maybe they disappeared when you needed them most. Maybe they used your kindness against you. Whatever it was, it left you questioning everything. But look closer. That moment didn't break you. It woke you up. It showed you where your boundaries were weak. It showed you where you were too trusting, too dependent on others for your sense of worth. And from that pain came a new discipline, a more grounded mindset, sharper vision, and stronger identity. You became more focused, less naive. You stopped seeking validation and started building self-trust. That's not a loss, that's transformation. Betrayal isn't the end of loyalty, it's the beginning of self-awareness. It challenges you to ask, who am I without their approval? What do I truly stand for when no one's watching? These are the questions that build personal integrity, the kind of strength no one can take from you. Emotional self-control isn't about denying how you feel. It's about deciding what those feelings turn into. Will they fuel your purpose, or will they become chains around your mind? When you take control of your reactions, you take control of your destiny. And once you do that, no betrayal can stop your progress again. The truth is, most people never get past their betrayals because they keep revisiting them without learning from them. But you're not most people. You're not here to dwell. You're here to grow. So let the betrayal do what it came to do, not to destroy you, but to sharpen you, to carve away the weakness, to teach you who's really worth your time, and to unlock that quiet, unshakable strength that only comes from surviving what you didn't think you could. You don't need revenge. You need clarity. You don't need to prove them wrong. You need to become so strong that their absence becomes irrelevant. That's when betrayal becomes your teacher, not your prison. And that's when your power begins to speak for itself. 3. Solitude is space for rebirth. Solitude is not emptiness, it's potential. It's not a punishment, it's preparation. In a world addicted to noise, silence has become uncomfortable. The moment we find ourselves alone, we panic. We fill the space with distractions, entertainment, validation. But here's the truth. Every man who has ever developed true mental toughness, emotional self-control, and clarity of purpose has walked through the fire of solitude. And if you're in that fire now, you're not broken, you're being rebuilt. You see, when life strips away the people, the routines, the comfort zones, you're left with you. No filters, no audience, just your thoughts, your fears, and your truth. It's there, in that raw state, that a new version of you begins to form. The quiet is not your enemy, it's your mirror. And when you finally stop running from it, you'll start to see the blueprint for the man you're becoming. Stillness trains your focus. It sharpens your emotional resilience. It builds the kind of strength that doesn't need applause to feel powerful. Solitude reveals the gaps in your character and gives you space to fix them. It exposes your insecurities and hands you the tools to dissolve them. Most people never get this far. They mistake being alone for being lost. But you're not lost, you're in training. You're in alignment with a deeper path most will never walk. This is where discipline becomes natural, where clarity becomes daily, where peace becomes non-negotiable. Because the longer you sit in the silence, the less you crave chaos. Think about it, in the noise of life, everyone's reacting. Social media tells you who to be. Friends pull you in 1,000 directions. Work keeps your mind busy. But when you remove the distractions, you begin to observe your thoughts objectively. You notice your mental habits, how you speak to yourself, how you respond to pressure, how often you seek approval. Solitude turns awareness into insight. And insight, when paired with discipline, becomes transformation. Solitude is not just about finding peace, it's about preparing for power. You're learning to become your own guide, your own leader. The man who walks through fire alone emerges immune to the opinions of others. He doesn't seek applause because he's trained himself to move without it. His actions are rooted in purpose, not performance. His stillness is his strategy. His silence is his weapon. That kind of man doesn't beg for attention, he commands respect. So if today you find yourself in a season of isolation, don't resist it. Embrace it. Use it. This is where your identity resets. This is where your emotional discipline gets built brick by brick. Don't numb it. Don't fill it. Sit in it. Journal. Reflect. Listen to your thoughts without judgment. There's wisdom hiding behind every uncomfortable feeling you've avoided. And when you face them, you rise. Remember, transformation isn't loud. Growth doesn't broadcast itself. The biggest changes happen in the quiet. You'll know you've evolved not because others praise you, but because you no longer need them to. Your validation will come from within. Your strength will be rooted, not rented. And when the world tries to pull you back into its chaos, you'll stay grounded, because solitude already taught you how to lead yourself. This isn't about being alone forever. It's about becoming someone who never fears it again. Because once you master solitude, no storm can break you, no silence can shake you, and no rejection can define you. That's not loneliness. That's leadership.
4. Patience in suffering, strategy in trials. Patience isn't passive. It's the quiet discipline that separates the reactive from the unstoppable. Most people think strength is shown in action, in shouting back, in stepping forward, in quick retaliation. But true emotional self-control is revealed in the spaces between the urge and the response. That space is sacred. That's where transformation begins. When life hits you with hardship, your instincts scream, react now. You want to defend your name, explain your side, or escape the discomfort. But responding too fast, without clarity, is how you give away your power. In a world that rewards speed, the man who pauses to think stands out. He doesn't just survive trials, he dominates them. Let's say someone disrespects you publicly. Your pride flares, your blood rises. The average man lashes out, hoping to regain control. But here's the truth, the loudest man in the room is rarely the strongest. He's the most unsettled. The grounded man, the one trained in stoic discipline and personal integrity, feels the same heat, but he doesn't let it burn his decisions. He waits, he watches, and when he moves, it's deliberate. That is strategy. Suffering isn't something you escape, it's something you study. Every setback, betrayal, or failure holds intelligence if you're patient enough to extract it. This is how mental toughness is formed. Not in victories, but in the pauses between loss and recovery. That's where your new character is being written. Not by others, but by your own responses. The truth is, you are always training. Life doesn't ask if you're ready. It throws the test first. The lesson comes later, but only for those who stay calm long enough to learn it. The man who has built emotional discipline through daily habits doesn't crumble under pressure. He observes the chaos, but he doesn't let it shape him. His power comes from waiting, not out of fear, but from focus. This is where patience becomes a weapon. When combined with strategic thinking, it becomes the ultimate form of self-mastery. You're not just enduring pain, you're analyzing it. You're not reacting to discomfort, you're positioning yourself for a better outcome. This is how you rise, not with noise, but with control. Think of it like a chess match. The impatient player reacts to every threat, drains his energy, and loses control. The master, however, sees 10 moves ahead. He lets others waste their strength while he holds his. He knows when to strike and, more importantly, when not to. That's not weakness. That's lethal precision. So when suffering shows up, and it will, don't run. Don't explain yourself to people who misunderstand you. Don't beg for clarity in the middle of chaos. Let your silence do the talking. Use that moment to observe the battlefield, not with emotion but with intention. Ask, what is this teaching me? What's the long-term move here? Where is the leverage? Because every man faces pain, but not every man turns that pain into progress. The key isn't in how much you suffer, it's in how you manage your mind during it. Your inner stillness becomes your fortress. Your delay becomes your edge. Your strategy becomes your transformation. This is how you start owning your trials instead of being owned by them. When patience and strategy meet, you no longer chase respect, you command it. You no longer explain yourself, you become undeniable. Your path isn't rushed, it's designed. And every moment of suffering becomes another step toward a version of you that no one can shake. So next time you're pushed, disrespected, or underestimated, don't react. Don't prove anything. Pause, think, plan, move only when it matters. That's how kings rise, silently, strategically, and with unstoppable clarity.
5. Transform pain into unbreakable power. Pain isn't just something that happens to you. It's something that can work for you if you let it. Most people view pain as a wall, something they crash into. But those who rise, those who build mental toughness and emotional control, they treat pain like a doorway. Not something to avoid, but something to walk through, with clarity, focus, and a mindset built to endure. This shift in perspective is where power begins. Because when pain shows up, it's offering you something no comfort ever will, the chance to build an unshakable core. Every painful moment, every betrayal, every rejection is a spark. For most, it burns. For the uncommon man, it ignites transformation. You don't build inner strength by winning all the time. You build it when you get knocked down and choose not to stay there. You build it when you're humiliated and don't explain yourself. When you feel misunderstood and remain grounded, you're not running from pain anymore. You're studying it. You're using it. That's how emotional self-control turns into personal power. It's easy to look at successful people and admire their results, but few stop to consider what shaped them. The truth is, many of them were forged in darkness. They didn't choose pain, but they did choose how to respond. Some were told they weren't good enough, some were betrayed by family, others were humiliated publicly. But instead of becoming bitter, they became focused. Instead of collapsing, they trained their minds to be calm under pressure. Instead of breaking, they rebuilt themselves stronger. This isn't a fairy tale, it's reality for those who understand one timeless truth. Pain is the price of transformation. There's a quote that says, "The obstacle is the way." And it's true. Every challenge is an invitation to become stronger. But it only works if you stop wishing things were easier and start becoming harder to break. This doesn't mean pretending pain doesn't hurt. It means using that pain like fire, forging your discipline, refining your values, sharpening your mindset. That's what builds the man who doesn't crumble. Not his talent, not his luck, his ability to turn pain into something productive. Think back to your hardest moments, the ones that made you question who you are. The nights you couldn't sleep, the days you felt invisible. You're still here, and that means you've already survived more than most people know. But surviving isn't enough anymore. Now is the time to convert that survival into strength, into vision, into presence. Because the scars you carry, they're not reminders of weakness. They're evidence of resilience, evidence that you kept going when you could have quit. And that's the point most people miss. Comfort never taught you how to lead. Comfort never made you wise. Only pain did. Pain stripped away the lies you believed about yourself. Pain revealed what really matters. Pain taught you who was real, who stayed, and who left. And now, instead of avoiding it, you're ready to use it. Not emotionally, not impulsively, but with intention. That's how unbreakable power is born. It's not loud, it doesn't beg to be seen, it doesn't flex, it just endures. And through that endurance, it commands respect, not through words, but through presence. When pain is no longer your enemy, it becomes your greatest ally. And when you stop fearing it, you become a different man entirely. One that doesn't fold, doesn't flinch, and doesn't explain. So the next time pain knocks, don't run. Open the door, look it in the eye, and say, "I've been waiting for you." Because now, pain isn't the end. It's the beginning of the man you are meant to become. 6. Place yourself in challenges to train. Growth never comes from ease. It comes from friction. Deliberate, chosen friction. If you want to build an unshakable mindset, You must train like someone who's preparing for battle, not like someone waiting for comfort. Most people drift. They avoid discomfort. They hide behind routines and familiar patterns, convincing themselves that they're fine. But fine never built anyone worth remembering. You don't become mentally tough by wishing. You become that way by placing yourself in challenges that stretch you, stress you, and sculpt your thinking under pressure. Imagine a man in a silent room, never questioned, never tested. Now imagine another, one who chooses to lead when it's unpopular, who volunteers for the hard project at work, who wakes before the sun to run when nobody's watching. That's the difference between existing and evolving. Every challenge is an arena, and every time you step into it, you train your brain to stay calm in chaos, to choose discipline over reaction, to endure without complaint, because life will test you through setbacks, disappointments, betrayals, and if you haven't trained your mind, you'll fold when it matters most. Think of challenge as weight. You don't get stronger by lifting what's easy. You build by taking on more than you're used to, not recklessly, but with strategy. Choose challenges that force you to grow, speaking up when you're scared, standing alone when it's easier to blend in, doing what's right when it costs you. Each decision builds inner strength. Each uncomfortable situation becomes mental armor. You're not just surviving difficulty, you're developing your identity through it. That's the core of personal growth. Not flashy, not fast, just real, steady, brutal training. The reason most men feel mentally weak isn't because they lack potential. It's because they avoid the very pressure that would turn that potential into strength. You can't build emotional self-control by escaping tension. You must sit in it, breathe through it, learn from it. That's how clarity emerges. That's how focus sharpens. When you place yourself in high-pressure situations, not to impress anyone, but to discipline your emotions, you start to think clearly under stress. You don't react to noise, you respond to what matters. That is power, and that is freedom. Discipline doesn't begin in comfort, it begins in commitment. You commit to challenge yourself, and slowly, your identity shifts. You're no longer the man who waits for motivation. You're the one who shows up when it's raining, when it's hard, when it's quiet. That's where personal transformation happens. Not when others applaud, but when no one's looking and you still act with strength. That's mental toughness. That's the foundation of emotional resilience. And here's what most forget. The more you train through self-imposed difficulty, the less life can shake you. Because you've already faced discomfort by choice. You've already built calm through chaos. So when life throws real pressure your way, you're not panicked. You've been here before. You've trained for this moment, not by avoiding adversity, but by meeting it with intention. You know who you are because you built it, not in words, but in actions. So challenge yourself, not once, but daily, not dramatically, but consistently. And do it not to prove something, but to become something. A man of control, a man of focus, a man who trains his mind to be free by placing it in the fire until it learns to thrive there. 7. Find power in silence to control your life. In a world that worships noise, silence is rebellion. And in that rebellion lies your power. While others race to speak, to argue, to prove something, you step back, not because you're weak, but because you're in control. The man who rules his tongue rules his life. Silence isn't emptiness. It's a weapon, one most people don't know how to wield. That's why they fear it, and that's why it works. Every time you hold back a reaction, every time you stay still, while others panic, you prove something rare in today's world. You are not owned by emotion. You're not reactive. You're strategic. You think, observe, analyze, and when you finally speak, it's deliberate. It cuts deeper, because silence sharpens your words. It makes people lean in when you finally talk. It earns respect without noise. This is the kind of presence that can't be faked. You build it by controlling your mouth, your mood, and your mind. Most people speak to fill the space because they're afraid of it. They need validation. They seek attention. They spill everything. Emotions, plans, weakness, hoping someone will understand them. But those who say less end up saying more. When you're silent, you listen more. And when you listen more, you gain insight others miss. You see through the noise. You see what drives people, what they hide behind their words. That's real intelligence. That's real emotional control. Think of the last time someone insulted you or tried to provoke a reaction. If you answered back in anger, they won. They dictated your mood. But if you said nothing, if you simply looked at them, calm, unaffected, it disarmed them. It showed you're not like everyone else. You're not ruled by ego or impulse. You've trained yourself to respond only when it serves a purpose. That's the power of silence. It creates distance, clarity, and respect. And more importantly, it gives you time to think before you act. Silence is not weakness, it's strength restrained. It's the difference between a man who's loud because he's scared and a man who's quiet because he's prepared. Kings don't shout, they command. They don't rush to respond, they choose when and how to speak. Their silence holds weight, and that weight comes from mastery, not just of their words but of themselves. To build this kind of control, you need discipline. The discipline to pause before speaking. The discipline to hold your opinion when it's not needed. The discipline to listen when it's easier to interrupt. That's how you train your mind to obey you. Not by reacting, but by choosing to be still. Stillness is not passivity, it's precision. It's awareness. And that awareness allows you to make better decisions, to avoid regrets, and to live with intention rather than impulse. When you live this way, people notice. They feel your presence, not because you're loud, but because you're steady. And in a world full of chaos, steadiness is magnetic. It's rare. It's respected. Your silence becomes your brand, your identity. It says you are not a slave to your emotions. You are not looking for attention. You know who you are, and that alone is power. So next time the world demands a reaction, give it silence. Not out of fear, but out of choice. Choose not to explain. Choose not to chase. Choose to be still. Because silence is not the absence of noise, it's the presence of strength. And once you master that, nothing outside of you can control the world within you. Your mind was never meant to be controlled by noise, chaos, or emotion. It was built for strength, for clarity, for discipline. Every habit you adopt, every challenge you face, and every moment of silence you choose, these shape the person you become. Today's message wasn't just a lesson. It was a call to take back control, to train your thoughts, build your inner fortress, and live on purpose. Now it's your turn. What have you done to build your mental strength lately? What daily habits, moments of silence, or tough choices have changed your mindset? Drop your story in the comments below. Your words might spark someone else's breakthrough. And if this video helped you reclaim focus or rethink how you show up every day, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more content like this. Let's build a community where discipline, clarity, and inner peace are our new standards.